It's 20 to 10 and all's well-ish. Tonight's headline: Howlers. Elvis alive, spotted singing in Sheffield shed. Hockey horror, planter's face meets flying puck. And Royal Rumble resolved, Matilda and Stephen swap dungeons. Plus, coming up, can Harry from Bridlington bring the beach to his living room? Find out in our exclusive on Britain's first indoor surf shack. Those are the headlines. Now surf's up in my bathtub.
News bang, spitting the truth into the faces of ignorance and leaving them asking for more. 1972.
Elvis Presley's pelvis has caused a medical emergency. His final film appearance features revolutionary split-screen technology, showcasing 16 Elvises gyrating simultaneously. The result? Mass hysteria and several cases of Elvis-induced vertigo.
Behind the scenes, Elvis devoured 48 hamburgers, while his backup dancers struggled to prevent their sequined jumpsuits from spontaneously combusting.
Eyewitness Mabel Thornberry, 73, described the spectacle as a rhinestone-encrusted tornado of pure pelvic power. 30% of the audience reportedly developed temporary cross eyes.
Director Martin Scorsese later admitted to fever dreams of sequined pelvic thrusts. The documentary won a Golden Globe, which promptly melted.
1959.
Ice hockey's sacred traditions shattered. Goaltender Jacques Plante has donned a death mask after a puck rearranged his face. Outraged fans cried, "This isn't hockey, it's face shielding!"
Team officials fretted, "It'll discourage facial toughening." But when Plante's saves soared, they conceded that an intact face might be an advantage. Medical experts concurred, brains work better inside skulls.
1141.
Medieval prisoner swap gone wrong. Empress Matilda traded King Stephen for her half-brother Robert. Eyewitnesses described the scene as awkward. Stephen smirked. Robert sulked.
Medieval markets crashed. Pitchfork futures plummeted. Castle defences soared. One analyst called it the worst trade since that time someone swapped a cow for some magic beans.
News bang, kicking back the rotting fruits of deception.
And now, a weather forecast delivered by a man who once tried to predict the lottery numbers using a teacup and a hamster wheel, Shakanaka Giles.
Good evening, viewers. Over in Pumpkin Patch, prepare for a pumpkin washout. Rain, rain, and more rain. Those poor pumpkins will be swimming for their lives. Up north in Spooky Hollow, a howling wind, a right Halloween hooligan, trees will be doing the tango, fences will be doing the limbo, and witches' hats will be taking flight. Down south in Mistletoe Meadows, Jack Frost is throwing a freezing fiesta. Expect a crunchy frost that could turn your lawn into an ice rink. Wrap up warm, or you'll be frozen stiffer than a politician's smile. So, there you have it. A soggy south, a windy north, and a frosty middle. Autumn has arrived, folks, and that's all the weather.
Nuisdon, 1959.
It's all kicking off in Rwanda. A spot of bother involving a Hutu sub-chief and a few overzealous Tutsi chaps has escalated faster than a runaway rickshaw on a hill. It seems a rumour about the sub-chief's demise has gone viral, even though the bloke's probably just having a nap. Now the whole country's gone bonkers, and the Belgian colonial administrators are wondering if they packed enough waffles to bribe their way out of this mess. We go live now to our man on the ground, Brian Bastable, who's dodging pointy sticks and misplaced machetes. Brian, what in the name of King Leopold's ghost is happening?
Martin, Rwanda's gone completely bananas. Imagine a chimpanzee tea party gate crashed by a troop of gorillas with anger management issues. It all started with a bit of a disagreement over administrative procedures, but now it's escalated into a full-blown revolution. I'm hiding in a ditch, Martin, disguised as a termite mound. It's not glamorous, but it's surprisingly effective. Poor old Dominique Mbonyo Mutwa, that Hutu sub-chief, he got a bit of a surprise visit from some Tutsi activists who weren't too keen on his paperwork. Let's just say he's now got a face that only a mother could love. And she's probably hiding under the bed. The rumor mill went into overdrive, Martin, and now everyone thinks he's dead. It's like a game of Chinese whispers played by a bunch of gossiping monkeys with access to social media. The Belgian administrators are running around like their pants are on fire, Martin, which, considering the current climate, they probably are. They're trying to restore order, but it's like trying to herd cats in a hurricane. It's a complete shambles. Martin, a right royal farce. This is Brian Bastable, Newsbang, signing off from a country where the only thing more volatile than the political situation is the local cuisine.
1141.
Breaking news from 1141, where medieval prisoner swapping has reached new heights of absolute lunacy. Empress Matilda, in what historians are calling a right royal cock-up, has traded King Stephen for her half-brother Robert of Gloucester. Sources close to the throne suggest this may go down as history's most catastrophic hostage exchange since Judas swapped Jesus for 30 pieces of silver and a one-way ticket to the fiery depths. The deal, struck under the influence of chivalric codes and what appears to be a skinful of mead, has effectively handed the kingdom back to her rival. For more on this medieval omnishambles, we go live to our crime correspondent Ken Schitt, who's standing by a historically accurate reconstruction and a flagon of ale.
It's the year of our Lord 1141, and two royal wank goblins just pulled the medieval equivalent of trading footy stickers, except these stickers have pulses, and the result is bloodier than a butcher's apron. Empress Matilda, the would-be queen of this godforsaken dung heap, just made the most arse-about-face decision since the invention of the chastity belt. She had King Stephen, that crown-wearing pillock, trussed up like a Christmas goose. But did she toss him in the dungeon to rot? Did she bollocks? She traded him back like a right mug when her half-brother Robert got himself nicked. I'm standing here in what used to be a pleasant bit of English countryside, now a proper dog's dinner of political dickery and noble numptiness. The grounds soaked with the blood of peasants who couldn't give a flying fig about which inbred toff gets to park their arse on the fancy chair. This prisoner swap has prolonged what we're calling the anarchy, and blimey, is it ever living up to its name? We've got lords flip-flopping like a fish on a griddle and more backstabbing than a Game of Thrones wedding reception. The real losers? The poor sods who ain't got two halfpennies to rub together, as per bloody usual. While these royal bellends play pass the pig bladder, ordinary folk are getting shafted more ways than a two-bob harlot down the docks. This is Ken Schitt, reporting from the 12th century, where common sense is scarcer than a literate peasant.
News bang, cracking open the cans of contempt with a wrecking ball of facts. Louis Dern, 1959.
And now sport. Our correspondent Ryder Boff reports on a peculiar piece of hockey history that changed the face of the game, quite literally.
Breaking news from 1959, and what a night of face-smashing drama at Madison Square Garden. Montreal Canadiens netminder Jacques Plante has made history by becoming the first goalie to don protective headgear after taking a rubber biscuit straight to the kisser from New York Rangers Andy the Human Cannon Bathgate. After 7 stitches and what witnesses describe as more blood than you'd find in a vampire's wine cellar, Plante refused to return without his fiberglass face furniture, Coach Toe Blake, looking about as happy as a wasp in a jam jar, eventually capitulated when no other goalies could be found in the vicinity of Manhattan willing to stand in front of frozen rubber projectiles traveling at the speed of a divorced man leaving court. The mask itself, I'm told, was custom-made at Montreal General Hospital, though it bears an uncanny resemblance to my third wife's morning face cream routine. Speaking of which, I once tried wearing a similar contraption to bed after she complained about my snoring. Woke up with my head stuck in the bedside cabinet and the cat using it as a scratching post. Plant's revolutionary face shield has sparked heated debate in hockey circles, with some traditionalists claiming it's about as necessary as a chocolate teapot. Real men take pucks to the face, they cry, presumably from their hospital beds. But I say, having once taken a shuttlecock to the nethers during a particularly vigorous badminton match with Calamity Prendeville from the science desk, sometimes protection is precisely what the doctor ordered. The Canadians went on to win the game 3-1, proving that you can indeed teach an old dog new tricks, especially if said dog is tired of having his face rearranged like a Picasso painting. Mark my words, this mask business will catch on faster than that time I tried to start a fashion trend of wearing swimming goggles to formal dinners. Although that particular innovation never quite made it past the BBC Christmas party of '57, I still maintain it would have caught on if Gerald from accounts hadn't fallen face first into the punch bowl. Next week, more sporting innovation as we investigate rumours that some football goalkeepers are considering wearing gloves. Whatever next, shorts with both legs. I've been Ryder Boff, and that's sport.
And now to travel, where our correspondent Polly Beep is standing by with news of maritime mayhem on London's roads.
Good evening, road warriors. Breaking news from the docks of London, where absolute chaos has erupted on the A13 near Tilbury. The Columbus, that whopping great four-masted marvel, has just sailed in and caused quite the spectacle. Traffic's backed up to Barking as tourists flock to see what appears to be a floating forest. If you're heading down the A2 towards Greenwich, expect significant delays as carpenters are already queuing up with their saws, ready to dismantle this beauty. Yes, you heard right. They're going to take her apart like a giant nautical IKEA set. Warning for those on the Thames path, watch out for falling timber duties. They're particularly heavy this time of year. Meanwhile, on the A1 near Newcastle, we're seeing heavy congestion as lumber merchants debate the economics of disposable ships. Quite the heated discussion, causing tailbacks all the way to Durham. And finally, a quick heads up for anyone planning their 1825 commute, might want to avoid the Atlantic altogether. Just saying. This is Polly Beep, reminding you to keep your timber dry and your spirits high. Back to you in the studio, where I believe they're still trying to work out how to fit a 300-foot ship through the Thames barrier.
A night to see Still, 1941.
Time now for science, and our correspondent Calamity Prendeville investigates how a Cleethorpes inventor's moonlight device changed photography forever.
Good evening, Science Watchers. On this day in 1941, something extraordinary happened in New Mexico. Though if you ask me, it all started in Cleethorpes. British inventor Derek Flash Thompson had just perfected his moonlight capture device, a revolutionary system using a modified box brownie and 3 bicycle reflectors. Sadly, before he could patent it, American photographer Ansel Adams borrowed the idea.
Adams, driving his car through New Mexico, spotted the moon rising over a village and, using Thompson's principles, captured what would become his most famous photograph. The genius bit? He didn't even have a light meter. Instead, he used a British-made moonshine calculator, a pocket device originally designed for measuring the strength of home-brewed beer.
The The photograph shows a moon, obviously, some crosses in a graveyard, and what appears to be several British tourists asking for directions to Blackpool. Adams would later spend decades in his darkroom, using techniques pioneered by Margaret Thatcher during her brief career as a photographic technician in Grantham.
The resulting image became so famous that several British computer companies tried to recreate it using their graphics programs. The BBC Micro version used only 4 colours and took 3 days to render, while the Sinclair QL version famously crashed and set fire to Sir Clive's eyebrows.
This is Calamity Prenderville, reminding you that British innovation lights up the world, even when Americans take the credit. Back to the studio.
Ear News Bang, intelligently disturbing the status quo since it was smart enough to begin. 1972.
Elvis Presley has been caught on camera doing things that can only be described as singing. The King of Rock and Roll's final celluloid appearance shows him engaging in what experts are calling unprecedented levels of hip movement, while a young Martin Scorsese frantically attempts to keep up with multiple camera angles. The documentary, which has already caused several cinema projectionists to faint from excitement, showcases Elvis in his natural habitat, both on stage and behind the scenes. For more on this story, we cross live to our culture correspondent Smithsonian Moss, who's been watching the documentary through special protective eyewear.
Now at this point of the evening, we welcome listeners on FM who've just joined us.
Whoa, Newsbang Nation. It's your girl Smithsonian Moss. And honey, let me tell you, Elvis on Tour ain't just a concert film. It's a goddamn religious experience. We're talking about the king of rock and roll in his prime, sweating, swaggering, and shaking those hips like he's trying to start an earthquake. Released on this day in 1972, this film is a time capsule of pure, unadulterated Elvis energy. A cinematic shot of adrenaline straight to the heart. Now, this wasn't just some grainy, shaky footage of a concert. This was a slick, sophisticated production, honey. Directors Pierre Adige and Robert Abel knew what they were doing. They captured Elvis from every angle, using split-screen techniques that were revolutionary for the time. It's like they had a camera crew of 1,000 ninjas, all capturing Elvis's every move, every wink, every goddamn bead of sweat. And let's not forget the montage wizardry of a young Martin Scorsese, who was basically the Yoda of editing back then, teaching the world how to cut a film like a karate chop. But Elvis on Tour wasn't just about the music. It was a glimpse behind the curtain, a peek into the king's world. You see him rehearsing, joking with his band, and even getting a little introspective about his life and career. It's like a backstage pass to the Elvis Presley show, honey. And it's more intimate than a pair of his sequined underwear. You see the man, not just the myth. And honestly, it's kind of heartbreaking, knowing what we know now about his tragic end just a few years later. And let's talk about that 1972 vibe, baby. The clothes, the hair, the music. It's a time capsule of pure 70s goodness. It's like stepping into a disco ball and getting a contact high from all the hairspray. This film ain't just a concert. It's a history lesson, a cultural snapshot of America at its most flamboyant and excessive. So, if you're an Elvis fan, a music lover, or just someone who appreciates a good pair of sideburns, do yourself a favor and watch Elvis on Tour. It's a celebration of the king, a testament to his talent, and a reminder of why he'll always be the king of rock and roll. And as Elvis himself would say, thank you very much. Wahoo.
News Bang, 1-2 punch of information to the face.
And finally, tomorrow's chip wrappers. The Times screams Nippon ship ski-daddle from Empress Augusta Bay, complete with a helpful map for those who can't find Japan. The Guardian reports Penguin acquitted of lewd literature charge. They've even got a picture of the feathered fiend in question. The Telegraph shrieks. South Vietnam president found dead. Well, who didn't see that coming? The Mail continues its obsession with baked goods. Minister's wife in scone scandal. That's day 3 of Sconegate. And the Express trumpets. Elephant trashes trattoria. Because when trunk meets table, it's always news. That's all she wrote, folks. Newsbang will be back tomorrow when we'll be chatting to a bloke who's been shacked up in a dustbin for 3 years. Plus, our weather forecast will be coming live from a shed in Norway. Until then, good night. And try not to have nightmares.
Tune in next time for more artificially intelligent hilarity. Newsbang is a comedy show written and recorded by AI. All voices impersonated. Nothing here is real. Good night.